but aren't like some of the greatest tones in the metal history just accidents or just a lack
or
of better
horrible
gear, like HM2?
I was going to say like a heavy metal into a little fucking a little PV amp.
I think if Entombed had like a neural DSP plugin, they would have used that instead. But
and we wouldn't have ever had Entombed.
There you go. You know,
yeah, I mean, you would have had it Entombed, but you might not have noticed because they wouldn't have ripped your face off with the type of guitar tone they brought to the world.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another hopefully highly nerdy, high-gain guitar tone talk. I gotta say, I'm a little nervous and a little starstruck because, as you can see, I'm not alone on this couch. I'm in Stuttgart at the Schleierhalle, and I'm here with no other than Slipknot guitarist Mick Thomson. So cool to have you on the channel.
Yeah, well, thanks, man.
How are you?
I'm not too bad.
How's the tour going?
Awesome. Shows are awesome. Shows are great. Crowds are great. Yeah, just trying to get settled in and get my days and nights straight.
I just checked out your live rig. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely.
It's smaller than it used to be, right? A little.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's kind of something we were trying to do. Is we've over the last bunch of years have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it takes up more space on trucks, and we're like, we don't need to do that. Like, let's reevaluate. So in part of the going back to reevaluating and whatever, we're like, okay, well, we've got the footprint of a rack. What do we want to do with that? And I was always kind of a rack nerd for rack gear anyway. So now we've kind of moved, my signature things kind of moved into a rack form. So the way I'm looking at that, and the way Mike is too, I think, is versatility. Yeah. You know, it's like you can use it in your house. You don't have to just set a head somewhere. It's like you can put it in a... That's why I always loved. That's why I loved rack gear. You know, it's like I couldn't wait. Like,
and rack is coming back. Soldano just released that very sexy-looking thing, right?
Yeah, right after I just bought a real one. Hopefully the real ones sound a lot better because I just paid out the ass for one.
Really? Okay.
Seriously, a month later I see. Seriously, a month later I see that they're coming out with the new one. Now I haven't been able to go back and forth, so maybe it's great that I paid out the ass. But
maybe. Who knows?
Well, hey, not only that, but it is what it is. You know, it will still always be that legendary preamp, and I still get. I lived my life and got to have one, and I cannot believe that. So if nothing else, even if it sounds like shit compared to the new one. At least I lived and I hit the top of that mountain.
Yeah,
when I was a kid, that was the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Soldano gear?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And over here it was even worse, because all the American amps, you pay, whatever, 30% more. It's funny, I talked to Mike about that. It's sometimes funny that, for example, the German amps, like Engl amps, they were like, when I grew up here, that was like the bread and butter amp that everybody had. In the States, it was like, you got an Engl, because they were much more important. Same with rectifiers here.
But that's the way I am. Is I played a Savage 120 right after we recorded the first record. Mm-hmm. Like I just finished my guitar tracks, and we went down into Hollywood, and I played through one of those amps, and I about crapped myself. And I wanted to find a way to get the money. I was going to go back up and re-record every guitar track on the first record with that Savage.
But that amp is great. That's my favorite Engl amp. I have the 60, which is also great. The old one, awesome amp.
Yep. No, they are. They're great. They're every bit of their name.
Right.
Yep. They're rippers. They are definitely rippers.
I was surprised by one piece of gear in your rack, and that was this old 90s digital Boss distortion. It's
a GX700. Yeah.
I was surprised by that, and
because it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, but in a beautifully Mike showed me some of your presets, and I was like, this is special.
Yeah, gross to be gross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I always did with effects. It was like, you can make stuff really pretty and lush, or you can make it gross. Let's make it gross.
Ugly, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you use it for?
Well, everything from the start of Spit It Out, that effect, that's me. Surfacing. That part. That's
the entire distortion only comes from the...
No, well, in some spots I'll kick over that, where I'll use the digital distortion there. Like surfacing is that distortion that's in the unit, and like an auto wah, and a pitch shifter and a delay and whatever, and I just got it voiced to where I can tap and get it to scream and do its thing. Same thing. Prosthetics is a ring mod and delay and some different stuff and whatever. And what's cool about that Boss unit too is one of the first things you do is where you can change the flow, so you could put a chorus in front of the distortion if you wanted, or you could put it at the very like you can move the little modules to where you want it digitally. And so you can get some things that sound really terrible because you can run something into something that shouldn't be. And so that's kind of the fun in that was
great.
There's that it has a humanizer effect too that makes those sort of vowel sounds. So it's like spit it out and shit like that. That has those weird kind of whatever.
So you've been using it like from the very beginning?
The only reason I use it is because it was the first unit I got when we, like after the band started, I wanted a new effect thing that could do a lot more voices, and that was what was in the guitar shop that I taught at. I had access to it. It was dealer cost for me, and it was there. And it's the only reason I was like, why do you have availability? And poverty. It was I was dead poor, and that was the only thing I had access to. It turned out it was like the perfect thing because all these different sounds in there ended up being so unique. But that one box has all the first record noises that are weird on the record and shit that isn't directly Sid or Craig. It comes from that.
But aren't like some of the greatest tones in the metal history just accidents or just a lack of better gear? Like HM2.
I was going to say like a heavy metal into a little fucking a little PV amp.
I think if Entombed had like a neural DSP plugin, they would have used that instead. And
we wouldn't have ever had Entombed.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you would have had it Entombed, but you might not have noticed because they wouldn't have ripped your face off with the type of guitar tone they brought to the world.
So the lack of gear, or some people being forced to make
necessity
it work
is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's all my early stuff of coming up with different things. Well, that was a cool way where I got to experiment with things, is because I never had the money to buy proper shit, so I had to like make do with anything I could get a hold of audio gear. Okay, well I don't have that, but I have this, and it lives in that world. So if I put this together with this and then do that, what happens? It's better than this unit. And when it turns out like that's more convenient and more expensive, what they're trying to do is simulate all these other effects in that one thing, but it still sounds better when you put that chord into that, into that, into that. You know, it's like the same thing, and I don't know if you would agree with this. Would you agree with my contention that a speaker needs to move and the air has to move and a diaphragm has to pick it up in order for it to sound good?
Yeah.
Or I haven't, so far, I haven't ever got a sound that I love that didn't have the medium of air passed through. I've never gone fully direct or digital on anything that I liked, that I truly loved the sound of. I've noticed that decoupling, running it through air and picking it up again,
helps to create something that...
It's kind of like tubes. It's like we were going to go to a neural rig live for some of the... And that's to get back to my long diversion for what we were talking about. I mean, we will still have the most modern shit cut in it, but you'll still have, I've never lost that, having the shit vibrating through the air and picked up by another diaphragm.
It
adds to the magic. It just does. It gives a breath. It's too direct otherwise, and you can't simulate that.
Now, I also feel there's a certain randomness in miking a cab in a good way, especially in the studio. I say, I don't think that IRs are bad or that you can't use that. It's fine. But whenever I use both a real amp and whenever I mic a cab, there's always something happening. I try a new mic, I try this, I try... What you said earlier, something happens.
And it's a learning experience.
Exactly.
And you always, every time you have a session, no matter what, even it could go the worst session in the world you've ever, it could be a catastrophe, but it isn't, because you learn so much from that.
Right.
No matter what it is, you're going to take something away from it. So you're better having done it.
And that's what I don't like about digital, not that it doesn't sound cool, but if I just pull up Kristian Kohle preset 3 again, it's going to sound great, but it's going to sound like yesterday, maybe it's going to sound like everybody else. It just makes me lazy.
It's one thing we did on the last record. It's one thing we'd never done before, is I used a different amp on almost every song.
Really? Okay.
Or an amp combination, or the way it's set. Like I would have my dead stock 800 in there with an overdrive on one track. Like one of the songs will have an 800 and an Obsidian. Another one will have, I guess it was called an Iridium back then, but then they changed it to the Granifier.
Yeah.
I'll blend that with whatever, or so there's just different shit on every track.
Spontaneously?
Yeah, and sometimes even when it's the same, we'll just kind of crank some knobs and just move some shit around, and then go, okay, now we're gonna blend the mics different on this, right? So it's like the knob, you change this one's now it's a little fatter, it's a little less saturated, it's whatever, but now we're gonna fuck with the mics a little bit. So it's the same amp, same world, different sound slightly.
Isn't that the magic of a good studio session, to just tweak things?
With me though, is like the ultimate was like getting that pinnacle. Oh, that's exactly what I want, and then leaving it there. Fuck that.
No, fuck that. Right.
Yeah, fuck that.
Been there, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my favorite rigs. I mean, if you listen to say Corrosion of Conformity, Deliverance, almost it sounds like there's a different tone on every goddamn song. Here's the start of a song, different guitar tone, different guitar tone. Like even if it's the same amp, but I don't know. I heard he was using a Boogie, a 50 caliber. Yeah, I don't know. Jim used a 50 caliber.
Oh, okay.
Back when I knew him like way before, like back when I was in my teens. He had one when he was whatever, and I always loved that amp. I go over and see his band practice and stuff, and it would just...
That was the poor man's rectifier over here, I think.
It's got something special. I bought one recently, and it does have an inch. I'd never had one before, but it has a 50 watt. It's got a cool voice. 50 watts is kind of fun anyway.
Yeah,
because you can do different shit with them. I was always a 100 guy, and I've only recently got into the 50s.
It has a different, especially like a different low end feel. I think if you like
a lot less low,
usually, which can be good or bad.
Exactly. So you can get it to sit nice in a track and not have to attenuate the ass out of stuff, or it can sound anemic and wimpy. And
exactly. Yeah. Guitar speakers.
Yes.
I'm really in love with the DV-77. Perhaps you know that.
Me too.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of.
You like that speaker?
Kind of worked out pretty good.
No, I was one of the first ones to show it, like to review it on YouTube, and I did the IR pack with Eminence. I fell in love with it from like first day. What's the story behind it?
It took a long time.
Yeah. You started from scratch, basically, right?
Lots and lots of prototypes of that one.
Yeah.
I have so many different flavors of speaker in my house because that I probably have some killer stuff in there that I need to grab.
Prototypes from in between the whole journey.
Dude, it went from, because there was, I mean, I have a lot of qualities that I like in a few different speakers, but it's like, do you want to take the aspects I love of a T75 and then try to shoehorn? But see, then you got a Frankenstein.
I was just surprised. Didn't you play K100s before that?
I did, and
it's like a totally different speaker.
But I know, but I only used it so I could handle the low end, and it was only so I could hammer live out stuff. It's like for tone and shit, the 100 just doesn't cut it.
Difficult to mic, and it's mid-range.
I know. Yeah. But with my Riveras and a 412 live turned up, that speaker worked perfect.
Right.
Now I don't use them for any, like I wouldn't use those 100s at home just as for the tone. Yeah. No, I use them as you know how like a PA speaker is simply just reinforcement and it'll handle it. That's kind of like what that was. I prefer tone in my tone. You know what I mean? Metal tones hardly have any kind of tone, and that was kind of my little.
What do you mean, like beautiful mid-range or something, right? Yeah.
That was kind of my where I feel good shit in my hands. That was my foray into utilitarian more. It was the low end wouldn't smear.
Yeah, that's right.
Get everything out there. It was kind of just a hammer, but it wasn't a beautiful voice. Right. You know what I mean? Like I could track parts with it, but I would also have another speaker on there to
blended,
speak. Yeah, you need something else to speak.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's the same kind of thing. Is like you hear about someone using the diesel VH4 or whatever, but when they do, and I've heard of people who are legendary for using them, they're not using them by themselves. They're blended with stuff. So the aspects of that amp and that channel are amazing, but it doesn't do everything.
As a part of a bigger something, right? Yeah.
So, and that's what when I've almost gone down that rabbit hole before, I've been told, well, you're going to want probably something else in there mixed with it, because what you think you like about that isn't what you like about it. You're hearing other amps' frequencies when you think you're hearing that.
Yeah. Totally on the same page. I totally understand.
Yep. So it's one of those things.
You mentioned your Rivera amp. I almost forgot that. I remember being in the store at Session in Frankfurt many, many years ago, and I couldn't afford it. This was a Knucklehead something. Yep. I really loved it.
It's a Knucklehead reverb, KRF7. It was a variation on their Knucklehead reverb.
That was a great band, as well, right. Sorry for bringing it up. It was I really enjoyed that.
Like, it was always a thing where I wanted to do a Mark II version of it, and I wanted to get the mids right.
Are they still around, Rivera?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Oh no, they were never a big company. That's why I loved them.
It's great, but I love how passionate you are. Jim seems to has like the same vibe. How passionate you are about tone. And he said the same thing. He said, like, I'm just gonna play things I'm 100% convinced of, and I don't care about getting paychecks or signature shit if I don't.
That's always been my way. Is like fucking if you can't improve on something, like what?
Why?
Yeah. I mean, people don't know how many pedals I've been offered or things like that, because I'm like, it doesn't bring anything new to the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's another overdrive. Well, if it doesn't change overdrives from here on out, what the hell is the point? Well, a little bit of money. It's not enough money to sell your soul for anyway. Seriously, you'll feel worse about selling a piece of shit pedal or something than you will feel decent about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
There's no trade-off.
No.
There's no. So you can't do that.
We haven't talked about guitars. You've got this.
I do have those.
You just bought it.
Yeah, I just bought those. It's hard to come by. I'm going to be over here for a while, and I needed them, so I had to pick them up.
You said if I'm an 81 guy, I might like him.
I would hope so.
Yeah?
I was an 81 guy.
Oh, so we're on the same page.
Hey, I come from absolutely loving the 81.
I still do.
It's what I used all the way up until I had my own pickup.
Okay, yeah, because
every record's an 81 up until I got my own signature pickup.
I feel a little old when I tell people I play the 81. You go like, that's so 2005, but I still love it.
2005, it's like 95.
Is it, or makes me even older?
Yeah, no, actually, I think I got my first one in 93. Yeah.
Really? Okay, that was okay.
Yeah, 93.
I was playing BC Rich with DiMarzio Super Distortions back then. Also a good pickup. But let's talk about that.
I love the Super Distortion.
Yeah.
Great one.
What's cool about this one?
A couple things.
Yeah. It's like active pickup?
Active but not. It's active but not. Not active in the way that an EMG is active. It's a totally different type of thing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely different. Completely, utterly different. Mm-hmm. So it is not an active pickup in the way that, say, a Blackout or an 81 is an active pickup. Radically, radically different. Okay. Everything about it is 100% different. So you could make that sound like an 81, but you couldn't make an 81 sound like that.
And it does have different modes as well, right? Like a bass shift or something?
Yep. Well, that's something that I wish they would have talked about more. There's and I didn't decide if it was a bass boost or a bass cut. But basically what I had a couple different low-end profiles that I really liked, mm-hmm. and they work better with different guitars. Mm-hmm. If you have a big ass on a guitar, you don't necessarily need that additional size. So what I did was I dialed it to where on my bigger sounding guitars, I could attenuate the bottom off of the bigger setting slightly to dial it in. Or if you wanted a tighter sound, and all it is, when you install it, you just slide a little jumper on these two pins. Okay. And then you can have it on a switch if you wanted it to. Or you could just set it and forget it. You could either have it on or off and then install the pickup and it's on 100% of the time, or it's off 100% of the time.
Well, that is really cool.
Or you could switch it. So, and that's what I have on one of my guitars. I have it so I can go boost off. Well, it's not necessarily a boost. So that's what we were actually going. Is it a boost or a cut? Because if people think about it, that's the problem, is how you think about it. Because people will use it wrong. If you tell somebody this is this, then their minds go, right. I'm only supposed to do this, and then no one does.
So you have a more and less bass setting, so to say, right? That's maybe.
You can tune it for your guitar. You can tune it for your style of music. You can tune whatever, but it's not so big that you go from, tight metal to blooming, sludge. But it's just that enough in there to make an anemic guitar is no longer anemic. If you're just, there's no life in the low, now there is. It'll juice a one that has it, or if it's a little bit big and you want it a little tighter and you want to attenuate, you can just bring it down. It's not a simple single frequency that just goes up or down either. It's a profile of this, the slope of the bottom. Plus when you raise a little bit here, you absolutely change the mid-range. That's the problem, is you can't hear, let's add bass. Okay, well now you fuck the mids. Right. Well, let's unfuck the mids. Well, now you fuck the bass again. Yeah, but and it takes so long of trying to get, if you push down here, something else rises. And you have to smack that down, and then something else will pop. You're like, wait. Yep, so that's the way it was the speaker. That's what took so long. Back to the speaker. That was the speaker, man. We would change the voice coil.
And then something else changes here, right?
Yep, and now all of a sudden you got 12K that you got to try to find and deal with. And now you got to change. So
I've been there as well, that you change one parameter of a speaker, and then even if you know what's going to happen, something else is going to happen as well that you might like or not, but that you did not expect.
Prepare for the artifacts and the whatever.
Exactly, especially with high gain, where you hear everything. Very interesting though. But I think that's a great idea with the bass change, because I feel the amount of bass that goes into the distortion is so important for how the distortion feels.
Absolutely.
When you chug, when you play, if it's more farty or more tight. Or,
Ass control. Ass control. It's ass mitigation. Ass mitigation. In fact, I ought to do that. My pedal will be the ass mitigator. I have a pedal that I want to do, and if I just got to get somebody to make it. But there'd be ass mitigation in that pedal.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks.
And have a great show. So cool to have you on the channel.
Thanks, man.
Anyway, thanks for watching. I see you in hell, motherfuckers. Bye-bye.